Hey, Colin, Jason here. I just have to tell you, ICRPG a day month is my favorite month.
Just in case you didn't know, Jason Connolly is in fact quite a fan of ICRPG. He introduced me to Altered State, played a few sessions with him, really enjoyed it, and then it went the way of online games and kind of fizzled out. I can't remember why now, but yeah, it's one of those things. And having said that, it's ICRPG a day month, whilst it's going on in the background, day 8 and 9 of RPG a day, and I've got no mention of ICRPG. Sorry to disappoint you, Jason, but thanks for the vote of confidence anyway. Question number 8. Who introduced you to RPGs? Well, this is a super easy question for me to answer. It is the legendary Mrs. McConaughey. She was my teacher in infant school when I was 6 and 7 back in 81. She taught me how to play D&D, but laid the foundations long before that by, at carpet time, reading us The Hobbit. It was really my introduction to that fantasy world of Middle-earth, and I don't really think before that I'd heard much about things like goblins and orcs or elves, any of that business. I certainly never heard of a hobbit, and it just captured my imagination, and I was off and running. She also channeled my enthusiasm for strategy. She taught me how to play chess, and this kept me out of trouble. I previously would have been at the head teacher's, I've told this story before, at the head teacher's every day for fighting or getting myself in some kind of trouble. And I think I was just bored, and as a youngster lacked the experience to know that wasn't the way to find a way to occupy yourself. Without Mrs. McConaughey, I think my life could have taken a very different turn. Maybe not, maybe it would have been fine, maybe another teacher would have come along. Whether it would have been in time, who knows? But gaming has been massive for me, and I clearly owe that to Mrs. McConaughey. I also think it's not just gaming. She spoke all sorts of different languages. She's half Dutch, half Irish, played musical instruments, the guitar, all sorts of stuff. Weirdly enough, I ended up going to see her to help me with the guitar as well. She was the person that explained to me that my guitar, the action on it was too high, which was making it virtually unplayable. She helped me with tuning. It was my dad's guitar, in fact. He gave it to me, and I kept it going. And to this day, I still play. And weirdly enough, this is how influential she was. Now that I'm a teacher, I had many conversations about getting into teaching. I stayed in touch with Mrs. McConaughey up until very recently, and she sort of in some ways put me off of teaching. She had a rough time. She had a difficult life in general, a very hard life, which makes her more inspiring in a lot of ways. I was friends with her son as well, so I had a lot of tie-in with Mrs. McConaughey. But at the age of around 20, I'd looked at going into teaching, and I'd gone back to Mrs. McConaughey to do some work experience, helping out at a school, and We had a trip to the zoo with the kids, and I had a group and took them round, and I think I knew then it was something that interested me, but I just didn't know how to realise it. So, yeah, like I say, I owe her a huge debt. Question number 9. What is the second RPG that you bought? This question is a bit of a tricky one to answer, and I think it's because whilst we played lots of different games back in the day, I can't really remember too well how many of those I'd purchased and in what order. Now, I definitely had Mensa Basic, and I believe that was a shared present between me and my brother, or we bought it together, and I think he sort of said, I'll take the players, and I was the DM. I looked after the DM book. We weirdly split that game. The expert rules, I can't remember where they came from, but I got a feeling I traded them with somebody. So that was kind of weird. I had Holmes Basic that somebody gave me, so I didn't buy that. Car Wars Deluxe set, I remember buying that, definitely bought that, but not really a role-playing game, although it did have a role-playing element to it. First edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, that was given to me. Ravening Hordes came with that was given to me, still got both of those. Talisman was probably the first, let me think, yeah, pretty sure that was the first kind of Games Workshop board game we ever had, and don't remember how we got that. Cosmic Encounters, I traded that for something. We did do quite a lot of trading. Was forever going to things like car boot sales, trying to pick games up. Had random copies of Dungeon and Dragon magazine, bought them occasionally, every now and then. I think my parents agreed to get me a subscription to Dungeon magazine for a year as a birthday present. I remember buying the D&D companion rules. I bought that in BTs, or I think it was Taylor and McKenna at the time. But I think, and I'm pretty sure about this, I've narrowed it down to 2. My second purchase was either Toon from Steve Jackson Games. We had a blast with that. I think I'd probably do a better job of running it now, because as a D&D player I struggled to get into the right mindset for that game. I like drawing the characters, but we tended to keep playing the Toon Olympics scenario over and over, and it didn't do much else with it, to be honest. But it was fun. But I think the most likely candidate for second purchase, and in answering this question I'm going to say Star Frontiers Alpha Dawn, with the Crash on Volturnus module, the map and the little tokens that came with it. You had the light version of the rules and then the more advanced version of the rules, all in the same box. This was the purple box version, like this. I don't know if you could really call it a second edition, but I was drawn to it. Because it had like a sticker or badge on the side, like TSR by the creators of Dungeons and Dragons type of branding on there. So there was that tie-in with Dungeons and Dragons. I loved the box art. I was watching sci-fi type stuff on the television, so it captured my imagination. Still got it. It's in pretty good shape. I've lost the tokens. Well, I think they're probably somewhere, but I remember taking them out, putting them in a little baggie, and now they've been separated. So that's a bit annoying. Having said that, I don't think it's aged super well in terms of a system. It's percentile based, which I like, but I don't know. I'm not sure about the skill thing in there. I can't imagine running it anymore, sadly. If I did, it would just be for the sake of nostalgia. And the trouble is, I've got too many other games. Although I'm getting rid of games, I've still got games I haven't played, which I would have to prioritise. So I'm a lot more focused on playing games that I know I'm going to like at the moment, and games that I haven't played. I'm not in a rush to go digging out my old stuff that I'm pretty sure is a little bit iffy. I know there's fans out there still, and more power to them. There's a good sort of base of fans, and there's also a bit of drama around the game, and I'm not interested in that. I don't know much about it, and I don't feel I need to know much about it. Toon, however, I think probably holds up a little bit better, but I'm not in a rush to play that for the same kind of reasons. Both of them will be staying in the collection, certainly for now. I can't see myself parting with them. And that's about all I've got to say there. Difficult to remember those purchases, and money was really tight at the time. And proportionally, I think games were really quite expensive. I don't know if it's because they was coming from America or what. Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of purchases. It's just occurred to me I need to make a slight correction. Talisman was not the first of those kind of GW board games I picked up. We had the Doctor Who one and played that. Played Talisman first, a kind of a homemade version of Talisman that Mrs. McConaughey owned, and then bought Doctor Who and played that, and then decided to get our own version of Talisman as well. So that was first edition Talisman in the green box, and we played the hell out of that, and eventually my brother took over with purchasing a load of expansions for that. I picked up the first expansion and then the second expansion that was called Adventure, I believe. At that point I got out, Arthur got in, took over collecting expansions. Yeah, the rest is history, as they say. Oh, and there's a couple of glaring omissions on the RPG list. Firstly, the Black Box Masters D&D, or Master set for D&D with, I think it was like a gold dragon or bronze dragon, something like that on the front. And then the other one, which has probably been forgotten for the sake of my own sanity, and that was first edition Paranoia, came in a hardcover. Who made that? West End Games? Yeah, well, I've made my thoughts on that game pretty clear. And, yeah, less said about that, the better, I think.
Hey, Colin, Jason here, enjoying this resurgence in regular podcasting from you. 2 comments. Wow factor. So I don't know if you listen to or you have a chance to, they're kind of long episodes, but there's a podcast called Frankenstein's RPG where they take bits, they argue about what are the best bits and bobs from different systems and are trying to put them together to make not a universal, but make the best system. This season they're doing sci-fi games, and one of the things they decided at the beginning they needed to have in sci-fi games was the wow factor. So I do think there's a lot to that wow factor, and having that wow factor, something that rocks players back and knocks them out of their socks, is a big part of making that session memorable and enjoyable and really keeping people coming back to a game. So I think there's a lot to the wow factor. And as far as the rule 3, I need to leave another message.
Wow, Jason, I've got to cut in. Oh, Jason makes me laugh. Every time I go like 7 or 8 days without a podcast, you think I'd faded from the scene. And I always get a welcome back from Jason. I don't know, it makes me wonder if my episodes don't always get out there or something. You'd think I've been gone forever, lost in the wilderness of non-gaming. Yeah, it's all right. I'm still here. You'll be demoralised to know.
As far as the rule 3, and I don't mean 3 clues for a mystery, although I'm a big fan of that rule 3 as well. But the idea of 3 options and 3 things and talking about the number 3 and you're talking about how it works cognitively, I've seen that other places too. 2 or 3, maybe 4, but on the average, 3 is a good number for people to be able to keep options in their head. So I know like during defensive tactics, they would show 3 different options to like counter a move or something like that. And the idea is if you show somebody 20 different ways to counter a punch or disarm somebody, you end up with analysis paralysis. Where if you just have 3 moves, 3 counters or 3 attacks or 3 whatever that you really drill into, then you can default right to one of those 3. So I think there really is something with the number 3 and the way our brains work, and there is a thing of having too many options, which is the reason people should sell their excess games. I'm out.
And there we go with an example of the rule of 3, and not that one. Not that one he's talking about. I'm talking about the AAA, Airborne Army Archives. At least that's what I think it is. Recollections from my old buddy Jason of back in the day. I think that's what defensive tactics is a reference to. And then it sounds, as he explains it, it sounds more and more like a kind of a Connolly war story, which I love. I love a Connolly war story. They always throw a little bit of light on things, and it makes total sense. The analysis paralysis is definitely a thing, and you can apply this to a load of stuff. And pruning down your game collection. If you've only got, say, 3 games to choose from, that makes the decision of what to do way more easy. It ties in perfectly with this business of talking about gaming back in the day when I was a kid. It was not really what we're going to play. It's just, when are we playing D&D again, you know. Keep it simple, stupid. Talking cognitively then, this is to do with working memory, that part of your memory. And the research at one point said 5 was quite a good number, and then it varies from individual to individual, but they pruned that back, suggesting that it might even be more accurate to say 2 or 3, and there you go, there's your 3 again. So it's nice to back up some of our theories with a bit of science. I find it interesting. Hope you do too. And big thanks to Jason Connolly of Nerds RPG Variety Cast for his a little bit of insight, and love that stuff. Love it. So cheers, Jason. And there you go. That is a wrap. A big thanks goes out to the pit crew, the generous folks supporting my endeavours over on Spike Pit Patreon, and a big thanks goes out to you, the listener, for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to old Spike Pit. Take care, and I'll catch you later.